I look like a gardener to you? I am a better, I am not a gardener. Hedging is for gardens. How does your garden grow?
With plus money.
With plus money. Hedging is for gardens.
Welcome everyone to Betting Weekly Live. It is Wednesday, the 9th of April. You're with Steve Wyss and Will White. And I forgot to take Nigel's theme tune off. You're not a hedger, are you, Will? All right.
Depends on the odds, Steve. I think I'm, sit on the fence with that one. Interesting intro music, that's for sure. I'm not sure it's my kind of style. But yeah, the underlying theory is definitely debatable, isn't it?
Yeah, we could have a whole show on hedging and stuff like that. But welcome in, everyone. It is the Champions League quarterfinals. We're going to continue our in-depth previews. We've got two massive games today. We've got Barcelona against Borussia Dortmund and then PSG against Aston Villa. Put in your best bets today. Also, there is some championship action, which we might touch on. There's a Norwegian game, which I've got a position on as well, which I will mention later. But yeah, Disky, good to see you. Villa fan 20. What an exciting day for all the Villa fans this is going to be, Will. Maybe hope more than genuine belief, but he thinks he can get a decent result tonight. Rashford and Asensio to do the damage. I've seen some predicted lineups where Asensio's not in the lineup. Villa fan, I have to see how that one goes. Byron, good to see you. Zayte as well. Paul Laguna, well done with the Florida pick and the National Championship. Duncan Evans, Rick Haley, James Tan, Foxy, good to see you as well. How did everyone get on yesterday? That's the first portal call, really, Will. And it was an interesting night. I was done over by the unders in the Inter Milan game. To be fair, it probably did deserve to go over, but maybe not the scoreline. It was more Bayern, I think, deserved the win rather than Inter. And then Arsenal with what an incredible performance. 3-0 to them. I tweeted out that Real Madrid are as good as out, which is a dangerous thing to say about Real Madrid, but I don't honestly see a way back now. I thought they absolutely dominated the game completely. And we know that we've been talking about the outright futures market, and we know that you had a big loser in the book with Real Madrid. So I'm sure you were delighted with that result, Will.
Yeah, good day to everyone out there, to all the watchers and all the listeners. I'm not one to goad the gambling gods, Steve, and I'm very superstitious by nature, but it's not often you'll hear me talking about a positive outcome or a winning bet. But yeah, let's just say the Real Madrid result last night was very good for me. But they had it coming. I think they've had it coming for a while, and they've not really been at it recently. And they got found out by the better team, the better setup. And yeah, let's hope that Arsenal can get the job done in the Bernabeu, where we all know that anything can happen, as Jude Bellingham said after the match. But yeah, you've got to be confident that Arsenal will get the job done.
Yeah, well done to Arsenal. It was a brilliant win for them. Declan Rice, don't think he'd ever scored a free kick before, and he comes up with two absolute bangers. The curl on that was incredible, unsavable. And now Real Madrid are 16-1 to win the Champions League of the Bet Rivers futures market. I've not actually got a graphic for that today. Barcelona now plus 250, PSG plus 275. Is it too late to get involved in futures markets now at this stage of the Champions League, Will? Or is it still possible to get a value and an edge for those who want to get involved on the back of those results last night?
Today, I think it's a little bit too late. I mean, certainly if you had an anti-Madrid kind of viewpoint, today is definitely too late, although I wouldn't be going near them at 16-1. Arsenal, they contracted roughly 50%. Their price kind of halved based off last night, but they were underdogs to go through, right? So maybe they haven't shortened enough. But, you know, I've been saying for a while that I think Barca are the best team in Europe. I'm a Barca fan, so, you know, I like to think that I can stay objective. But at the end of the day, I think Barcelona have got the best midfielder in the world in Pedri, and I think they've got the strongest front three in the world as well in Lamine Yamal, Rafinha and Lewandowski. I am worried about PSG. I think they've also got an almost equally talented midfield, and then their front 3/4 are very, very dangerous. I think both teams are defensively quite vulnerable, and that's where Arsenal may have the upper hand. Although the problem Arsenal have is Gabriel is out until the end of the season, and that's a really big deal. So, gun to head, I'd say Barca should be favourites. They deserve favourites. They are favourites. But now it's probably plus 250. It's a bit late to back them.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking now at Borussia Dortmund at 40-1. I said yesterday that Inter at 10-1 were the one that did catch my eye if I was going to get on a team. They're now Inter plus 550. Not necessarily the most convincing performance, but they're in a great position to make the semi-finals. I wouldn't go near them now at plus 550 though. Aston Villa 28-1 might be a few interested in that based on the manager. I know he's very highly rated. We'll come to that match soon, actually. But just going to have a look into the comments now. Joe Bamber, I personally don't think Inter's going to win. Even if they get to the final, same thing will happen to us as against City. Whoever you face, it would be a tough final, obviously. Duncan Evans, if Madrid score in the first 20 minutes in the second leg, it's squeaky bum time for Arsenal. Can see it happening too. When was the last time that Arsenal lost by more than a 2-goal margin? That's a good question. I was going to look back today, actually, but I haven't had time. But they just don't seem the sort of side now under Arteta in the last, 3 years that would ever get beat big by anyone. So, I think it's very interesting. Some notable winners and losers from yesterday. Biggest bet, actually, in the soccer was Independiente de Val. Double chance live at -1,000 against Universitario de Deportes. I'm not sure if that was a Copa Libertadores or an Argentinian game, but 30 grand on that. That was a big one. The Real Madrid draw double chance 10,000 bet that I mentioned before, as we seem to just lost Will briefly there. I'll wait until he comes back in terms of the device. But the 10,000 play on the Real Madrid draw double chance was a loser. And then there was 6,000 on Tigres against LA Galaxy. Over 1.5 first half corners live. So that was a winner. Will, I think we have you.
Can you hear me, Steve?
Yes, just tap your microphone.
Yeah, mic's not actually working.
Right, so we're on the backup mic.
Settings, but
well, we'll have to do the backup mic for now.
Is the backup mic?
Yeah, it will do. It will do. Just wanted to make sure that you were aware of it. But we can certainly hear you loud and clear. That was a bit of a threw me when you left the scene there.
Yeah, no, I wasn't sure whether to risk it all to potentially make things a lot worse, and ended up happening. But we're back.
We're back. Yes, Joe Bamber. I don't think Arsenal will lose the tie. There's no chance with the Arsenal defense, even without Gabriel. I would agree with you there. Foxy says they need to keep a clean sheet or restrict Arsenal to scoring at most one goal to have a chance of qualifying. That is very, very true. Okay, it's time to get into the matches. Then we'll leave the Villa game. We're going to keep the Villa fans waiting here. With bated breath. But here's the Champions League draw, by the way, just to remind people. This is the route to the final. As you say, Arsenal there against Real Madrid will face PSG or Villa. And then the winner of Bayern Munich Inter Milan will face Barcelona or Dortmund in the semi-final as well. So that's just a reminder of the draw and what is at stake. And this is the Barcelona game now. Barcelona against Borussia Dortmund. I was hoping Dortmund would be knocked out by now. Will I never, ever get them right? One of the hardest teams to predict. But I've got to admit they're in much better form recently. Really, Niko Kovac got them playing some good football, plus 800 to win the game. My Barcelona minus 345. The tie's at plus 480. Immediately, I'm drawn towards goals here. The way I'm seeing it, Barcelona win over 3.5 goals. It's pretty obvious. That's the way. That's how I think this match will go. Which means with Dortmund involved, you want to bet the opposite.
Yes,
What do you think? What do you think? What are these odds correct for the match situation? Where do you rank Dortmund? I'd be really intrigued about where you see Borussia Dortmund at this point in time.
There's a lot of questions there, Steve, and a lot to unpack. But let's start on the goal line then. 3.5 is the goal line here. Dortmund have the second highest total goal expectancy. So that's XG created plus XG conceded per 90. They have the second highest in Europe of the highest rated teams. PSG actually have the highest, but they play in Ligue 1, obviously. It's a high total, 3.5. And I wouldn't put anyone off having a look at unders. Personally, it's not something I do with Barca because of how aggressively they press and how Flick's got them playing and those stats I just mentioned. They've conceded in 15 of the last 18 Champions League games, which is quite the statistic. At the same time, Dortmund have scored in 21 of the last 23 Champions League games, which is also pretty outrageous. So it's really hard to back unders through that kind of lens. These two played back in the league stage, and they played out a very entertaining 3-2 Barca win. All goals came in the second half. 4.77 total XG created. I wanted to be with Barca. I wanted to be with Barca -1.5 because 1, they're an absolutely red hot form. 2, Dortmund are going to be missing key defender Nico Schlotterbeck, who's out until the end of the season. And also Gross and Sabitzer from that midfield. You know, maybe you could argue only one of Gross and Sabitzer would start, but they provide a lot of experience. And I think Dortmund might be going in here with a midfield, which is kind of Mchea, Chuma Kwemba, Brandt kind of thing. Or maybe they'll play Ozcan. They're going to be debilitated in that central midfield area and at the back. And Barca, in this kind of form, I can really see them going to town on Dortmund here. The problem is the line's been absolutely smashed in. So we're looking at 1 3/4 now. And that quarter of a goal difference, I just can't justify backing Barca there. When these two played earlier in the season in the league stage, the line was +0.5. And so we've shifted 1 1/4 goal, albeit the home advantage has shifted 2. But then Dortmund played Real Madrid in the league stage 2, and they were +1 1/4 that day. So the market is saying that this Barca is half a goal better than that Real Madrid. That could be the case, but half a goal is a massive difference. You know, like in a head-to-head, I think Barca, yes, they're half a goal better than Real Madrid. But, you know, in this particular tie, I think that's an aggressive move, and I think it's an aggressive handicap, but it makes a lot of sense to me. I have found what I believe is, once you piece all of those things together, what is a really good value bet. And I'm not sure if it's a Bet Rivers special or whether it's just the price that they would normally be offering on this, but I really like Barcelona to win the match in regulation time and both teams to score at +132. If you put those two selections together as a same game parlay, it comes out at +114. But if you, on the main tab of the Bet Rivers, on the website for this game, they have FC Barcelona to win and both teams to score, yes, at +132. And I think it's way too big. I mean, those stats about Barca conceding in 15 of 18 Champions League games and Dortmund scoring in 21 of 23. You know, both teams to score on its own is -162. It's a little bit short to advise. But by just adding Barcelona to win in regulation time onto that, you get the price up to +132. And I think that's humongous, basically. And then also I've got a couple of props, but maybe I'll come back to you and see what you think about that special, let's call it.
Yeah, I mean, there is a house special for this game that I've been given as a notable house special. This might be another house special, I'm not sure. Robert Lewandowski to score and Barcelona to win is -108. That is a Bet Rivers house special. I mean, I like that. We've seen quite a few comments in chat here suggesting that Dortmund will score. And the Barcelona clean sheet, for anyone who thinks Barca keep a clean sheet here, +138 on Dortmund under 0.5 goals. I wouldn't trust. I'm just not to say I wouldn't trust the Barcelona defense. I think Dortmund have got to have a go here. I mean, you mentioned the team news. It's not particularly favourable, is it, for the Germans? Gross suspended, Sabitzer injured, Schlotterbeck for the rest of the season. Did you say, Will? Is he out for? So, I mean, someone's mentioned the tactics there that they put Dortmund in 4-4-2 recently. To be honest, I had a look at the tactics that Kovac has been doing, and he's been all over the place trying to bamboozle opponents. It was listed as a 3-3-2-2 in a recent game. Quite how long that was for, I don't know, but that's a very unusual formation. 3-4-1-2, all sorts of systems. So, yeah, I think he'll have potentially some sort of wacky plan here, or some sort of tactical plan to try and destabilize Barcelona. There's quite a few player props I do like here, mostly on the Dortmund side, actually, because I think there's a few of their players a little bit underrated here. But I mean, I was looking at the over 3.5 goal line, minus 109, though. That's a little bit too short for me, in which case then I'm often drawn to the first half goal line. Over 1.5 first half goals plus 102. You could probably take over 1.25 first half goals. But in the meeting, when they in the league phase meeting, it was 0-0 at half time. So you could get a situation where the teams feel each other out. But the Champions League, maybe the dynamics have changed. I was in a discussion with someone on X yesterday. I think he watches this show Malvo, and he said to me that somehow the new Champions League format is different in terms of how we used to get a lot of really tight first legs and stuff. That's not necessarily the case now. So maybe it will be guns blazing right from the first whistle, Will. I'm not sure. But the first half goal line is always something that interests me in these matches with a high goal line, where I think it will go over.
Yeah, it's funny you said that, actually, because I've got down in my notes here. I haven't found a Prowse and Bet Rivers for it yet, but I'm sure they'll get the market up before kickoff. But I have down in my notes most goals in the second half at anything above even money. Partly based off that league stage match that these two teams played out, but also partly based off just knowing Barcelona and knowing how often their relentless pressing and pressure and, just weapons coming at you from the word go. Often they'll just wear teams down and blow them out in the second half. So that would be my angle. But there is a prop I like a little bit more than that. If you'll allow me to bring that up, Steve. It's my man, Fermin Lopez.
Oh, yes. What's the prop here then?
Talked about him before. I'd say there's only a 50-50 chance he'll start here. But and a limited sample size of data for him in this season's Champions League. He's played a total of 2.890s, but he's averaging a mammoth 2.16 shots on target per 90. And the likes of Lewandowski is priced up at minus 715 to have at least a shot on target. Rafinha is minus 140, minus 435, and Lamine Yamal is minus 400. Fermin Lopez is minus 129, which is a much more appealing price for a guy that likes to appear late in the penalty box and likes to have a shot. And I think, given you get your stake refunded if he doesn't start here, I think that minus 129 is mammoth. Personally, I would start him. So yeah, Fermin Lopez to have over 0.5 shots on target at minus 129 is a bet for me.
Yeah, I'm just looking through the comments here. I want to say welcome in to Ray Burke. Really appreciate your support on the channel, Ray. Not just on the live, but also on the recorded shows at the weekend. Great to see you in the chat. And there was Kiton Niao. I know you were on yesterday, and I still think you've got the wrong end of the stick here, Kiton Niao. He says, Nigel, like many other people, totally disrespected Inter yesterday. We were fighting Inter's corner yesterday, Kiton Niao. I think you get it mixed up. But we actually have Inter quite well respected on these Betting Weekly live shows. So, I will defend Nigel Seeley on this instance, Kiton Niao. Just going through some recent comments here. See you later, mate. SK. Have a good time at the handball game. Have you ever played handball, Will? I'd love to give it a go. I think it'd be quite fun. Fermin Lopez shot on target. I do quite like that one as well. There's some player props that really caught my eye here, and I think a few guys put this in chat earlier about Adeyemi for a shot on target plus 132. Guirassy for one shot on target is minus 167, which, okay, some might take that, but I think that's really good same game parlay material myself. I think he should get one. Jamie Bino Gittins plus 138 for a shot on target. He could, if he starts, break the offside line. Julian Brandt, I know you mentioned him earlier. Will, he's plus 220 for a shot on target. He could get forward. And Bayer's he had a really poor first half of the season, didn't work out for him at all, but he has come into some form recently. Might even be on the odd set piece. He's plus 163 for a shot on target. So I mean, some of the Dortmund will have moments in the game. Maybe not that many of them, but some of these guys do look overpriced, in my opinion. For a shot on target.
I had a look through the Dortmund players, and for me, I wouldn't go Guirassy personally. I wouldn't go with him. It's just too short for a Dortmund player in a game where Barca's game plan, and perhaps even Dortmund's game plan, is going to be for Barca to have all of the control. And like, if they execute that the way they're capable of, Dortmund are not going to get many opportunities. They're going to be on the break. They're going to be in transition. But how many are they going to have? Guirassy's had his fitness concerns. I'm not sure if he was injured or whether he was ill, but there's a chance he doesn't play 90. And that's the problem you've got with the likes of Gittins, Bayer, and Adeyemi is, at least one of those guys probably won't play 90 minutes here. So you've got to be wary of that. But for me, Bayer looks like better value than Guirassy, and Gittins and Adeyemi both looked better value than Guirassy as well. So I'd be wanting plus money if I'm going to be backing any Dortmund player to have a shot on target.
Yeah, Gianeppi's made a good point there. The lineup probably is worth waiting for Dortmund because we don't know what we might see here. It is one of those safe options, especially if you're not getting voided if your player doesn't start. You might, sometimes you might not want the bet voided, even if you are, coming off the bench or something. But just some data for the game then, and 93% of the money on the money line is on Barcelona. There's been nearly $7,000 placed on Barcelona on the money line at minus 345. Similar large bet on the minus 1.5 handicap, and an interesting prop bet, nearly $2,000 under 7.5 Barcelona shots on target. That's a bit of a brave one, but good luck to that particular bettor. A couple of other things as well. Over 2.5 goals mark it has hit in each of Barcelona's last 13 Champions League home matches. That one's from producer Troy, and producer Troy has informed me the background. The last time that Arsenal, I mentioned this, lost by at least 3 goals was on May the 14th, 2023 against Brighton. There's a quiz question for you all. Nearly 2 years since they lost by at least 3 goals. So looks good for them in the second leg, doesn't it? Last night kind of showcased, I think, Arsenal, how strong the Premier League is, Will. And you've mentioned this before about having Premier League sides high in your ratings. So the next match is really interesting. PSG against Aston Villa. PSG have already done away with, as I try and get the Villa graphic on the area, PSG have already beaten Premier League opposition, of course, in Liverpool. A weird one. Both teams won 1-0 in regulation, 90 minutes away from home. There should have been way more goals in the tie. Alisson had an absolute field day in Paris, didn't he? It was the best goalkeeping performance I've seen this season. And it's interesting now you get a World Cup winner coming here. I mean, Martinez. I'll talk to you a little bit about goalkeepers soon, Will. PSG minus 230 to win the first leg. They proved in the previous round they don't have to win the first leg to get through, but you'd imagine they do want to take some sort of advantage here. The goal line is generally 3 to 3.25. Aston Villa, a completely different challenge to what Liverpool were, Will, in my opinion. But the way I see things, I think Villa could probably do with the home leg first rather than being away. If PSG really motor and play as they have done since the turn of the year, they could rack up a decent win, in my opinion. But Emery will have a plan for Villa, won't he?
Yeah, I mean, look, PSG are definitely capable of racking up a result here. But I personally think Villa can be more competitive than people think. Sadly, it looks like some very, very big money in the market also is in line with what I think. And Villa have been smashed in from +1.5 on the main Asian line to +1.25, and they're really heavy minus money on the +1.25 now. So the market's thinking the same way as me. Why do I think that? Well, it's partly Emery. It's partly, I think, the market might be getting a little bit carried away with PSG, albeit I'm a mega fan of the likes of Neves and Vitinha and Kvaratskhelia and Desiree Doué and Barcola and Dembele, and the list goes on. I mean, and actually Luis Enrique, probably more than any of those guys. But, 1.5 is a big line, right? It's a really, really big line. And Villa, I think, are capable of containing PSG more than most people think. I think, yes, that Liverpool game, especially the PSG home leg, was very uncomfortable watching for any Liverpool backers. PSG blew them away. But I just think maybe Liverpool were having a bit of an identity crisis in that match. It's not really their style to sit back and try and contain, and they tried to, and it didn't work, but it's not really them. And I think it's a bit more in the DNA of certainly Emery. PSG's form, I mean, wow, they've won 25 out of the last 27, and they really should be 7 wins from 7 in Champions League. The only outlier there being that first leg against Liverpool that they certainly didn't deserve to lose. I mean, I think there are a lot of similarities between this PSG team and the Barca team, actually. They're both dynamic, youthful. Neves and Vitinha in midfield versus Pedri and De Jong at Barca, and then Dembele, Barcola, Kvaratskhelia, or Desiree Doué versus Lamine Yamal, Lewandowski, and Rafinha. But let's not discount Villa, that they're in good form themselves. And they handled very competently a potentially tricky round of 16 against Club Brugge. The thing that worries me about Villa more than anything is that their underlying stats are just not that strong. 0.07 XG supremacy per 90 in the Premier League this season, which is very, very low for a Champions League team. That's in comparison with PSG's plus 1.72 XG supremacy per 90. I just think that Villa might be able to do some damage here in transition. They've got the weapons to do that. I think they've just got the weapons, and they've got the potential recipe to make life quite difficult for PSG here. I just can't advise them at short negative minus money on the plus 1.25 line. It's the 1.5 line was the time to bet early or bet late. But I do have my eye on some props here. But I'll let you take over for a little bit there.
I was looking the other way. PSG minus 1.25 at minus 108. I mean, the betting weekly power rankings that are in the newsletter inside that have PSG ranked as the best team in Europe. You probably don't, I don't think, Will. But I mean, they're at home against Aston Villa, who are a good side. They're a good Premier League side, but that just seemed. I actually thought this line would be minus 1.5, minus 1.75. So that stuck out to me. I think PSG should win the first leg, even if it's only by 1 goal. They should have too much here. Anyway, I'm just going to look through some of the comments here. Joe Bamba saying Kvaratskhelia to score or assist. I think Paul Laguna is liking PSG as well. Foxy says Aston Villa definitely a better team than what Liverpool was when they played PSG. That's an interesting statement. Yeah, I mean, food for thought. Definitely in that. It depends if Martinez will show up, says Joe Bamba. I mean, Martinez, he could be the difference maker here, Will, if he's in one of his moods where he saves everything. got me thinking earlier about top quality goalkeepers, because in these really big games, Champions League, World Cups, Euro Championships, the keeper can make a difference. I mean, last night Courtois, I don't think he could have done anything about the free kicks. He made some really good saves. It could have been more for Arsenal. Where do you? I mean, in terms of an individual goalkeeper, do they ever factor into your actual ratings when you're doing a match or a team rating? Because I think it is sometimes a little bit overlooked that these world-class stars, like Alisson, completely won that match in Paris all on his own. But what's your take on goalkeepers and Martinez?
Personally, I don't. What I've seen and the kind of studies the academic studies that have been done into, well, I'm not even sure they're academic studies. They're probably studies that have been done outside of the academic world. But the studies that I've seen done into goalkeeping show that's the least important position on the pitch. And I kind of agree with that. But I think there's a lot of variance involved in goalkeeping. And I think a lot of the goalkeepers that we think are potentially like the world, like for example, Martinez, who is relevant for this game. Did you know he's the 15th? He's got the 15th highest shot save percentage in the Premier League this season.
Is that all?
And a goalkeeper that certainly most Chelsea fans are kind of up in arms about him and in and out of the team. Robert Sanchez has got the highest save percentage in the Premier League this season. Robert Sanchez, 74.
No way. Robert Sanchez?
Yeah, and Emi Martinez, 65.3%. There's almost 10% difference between the two. However, I think what that really shows is not necessarily that Robert Sanchez is a better shot stopper than Emi Martinez, but it shows that Chelsea are conceding much lower quality scoring chances than Villa are. And I think that's the whole point, or at least my point is defensive system and the quality of the scoring chances you concede is infinitely more important than the perceived quality of your goalkeeper. And if we are going to look to analyze goalkeepers, at least from a data angle, you need some much more advanced statistics to really come to any conclusions. What I will say, though, based off yesterday's show, where there was talk of the third choice Real Madrid keeper potentially starting for Real Madrid, I think the shift from first choice to second choice is probably not that important, because most teams, certainly in the Champions League final stages, have very, very strong world-class second choice goalkeepers. But when the drop off to the third choice goalkeeper, especially if he's coming from the youth team, from the academy, that can be significant. And so, yeah, if Fernandez had have started for Real Madrid last night, you would have seen Arsenal probably -120 or so. So yeah, those are my thoughts generally.
Very interesting. I mean, Martinez is the sort of keeper who, on his day, can produce an incredible saves. Is probably a better way of saying it. He can produce a save that you go, wow. Although he is capable of a clanger, they all are capable of clangers. Again, just looking through some of the comments here. PSG over 6.5 shots on target at evens is what Joe Bamba likes. Ian Messina, how about halftime draw? Beef Bully, welcome in. Good to see you. He's liking PSG to win, both to score, and he is predicting Dembele, Kvaratskhelia and Rashford to score. That would pay well, wouldn't it? I wonder what that same game parlay is. Do I agree with that? I agree PSG win. Yeah, I definitely think PSG win. I also like the Rashford angle. That's the one shot on target prop I do like for this game. Marcus Rashford at +115. He is projected to start the game ahead of Watkins, which is interesting. And the team news for PSG, of course, there is a suspension. Marquinhos is suspended. The back line is going to be Pacho and Beraldo. And the big decision that the manager's got to make really is on the right wing. It's going to be Desiree Doué or Kvaratskhelia. I don't know which direction he's going to go there. But I do think it'll be Dembele up front, and I do think it'll be Barcola on the left wing. I don't think Kvaratskhelia will play on the left wing, not start on the left wing anyway. Greetings, FGA Football, and Meslier as goalkeeping coach as well. So, yeah, and I will talk about referees in a minute, Maninda, but you wanted to mention some player props here, Will, for the game. So what have you got?
Yeah, the first one is Marcus Rashford, over 0.5 shots on target, plus money, rejuvenated since joining Villa, averaging 0.92 shots on target per 90 and 1.18 in the Champions League. PSG are pretty mean at the back. They're the fourth lowest shots on target conceded per 90 in the Champions League, only 2.84 per 90. But something tells me Rashford, could be dangerous on the counter here. I think we're likely to see PSG controlling this game for the majority, but I wouldn't be surprised to see Villa have a few counters. Rashford will be the main man at the spearhead of the attack. He likes the shots, and as long as he gets one on target at plus money, I can see that cashing. And then my other one is a guy that's probably 50-50 to start. You were alluding to it, but it's Desiree Doué. I've spoken about him before on this show. I think this boy is the real deal. He's only 19, and yet I would argue he's better than Bradley Barcola, Dembele, and Kvaratskhelia. I would have him first choice. I'm not sure whether replacing Barcola or Kvaratskhelia, or going even riskier and maybe replacing Fabian Ruiz and going with him at kind of the tip of the diamond in midfield. But I think he's the real deal, and he's a much bigger price than Barcola, Dembele, and Kvaratskhelia to have a shot on target. Stake refunded if he doesn't, so he's minus 129 to have a shot on target. He averages a massive 1.71 per 90 in the Champions League this season, which I can't emphasize how big that number is. 1.71 shots on target per 90 in the Champions League is ridiculous, based off a small sample size. And then if you want to be a bit more aggressive, him to score or assist in the player specials is plus 155. He's got 2 goals and 2 assists in 4.7 Champions League 90s so far this season. He's a player that really is flourishing. He's only getting better, and I think he's got the potential to be the most potent of that front four for PSG going forward. So Rashford plus 115, and Steve, looks like you agree with that one. And Desiree Doué minus 129. If you want to be more aggressive, anytime score or assist is plus 155 on Desiree Doué.
Yeah, I think the more I think about it, Rashford shot on target at plus 115, that it might even be the best bet of the night. Like I said, I did see, someone's commented there about, Rashford or Asensio. I seen a projected lineup where Rashford's playing up front. And I can see why, because he's pretty sure he scored against PSG in Paris for a very poor Man United team a few years ago. He can stretch the defence, he can get in behind. And, I did see it's 50-50 whether Asensio starts, but, there's a lot of that on loan from PSG. Of course, he's allowed to play. That would be just typical, wouldn't it, if he made an impact in this quarterfinal. Cabral puts it very simply there on the PSG minus 1.5 spread. If you play by the stats, then that makes absolute sense, Cabral. That's where I was coming from with the minus 1.25 Asian handicap. The money on this game, it's no surprise. Let me just get 84% of the money and 88% of the tickets are on PSG. The over-under money is a lot more split here. 55% of the money is on the over, so that is a proper toss-em-up 50-50 type of thing. And there's a house special for the game. Goal scored in the first 15 minutes. Plus 225. Are you having that one, Will? Goal scored in the first 15 minutes here in Paris. Quick start for someone.
Plus 2. What
plus
did you
225.
Say?
Plus 225.
Don't know if it's for me. Know if it's for me. I'm kind of daydreaming and thinking through the actual matchup, what it's going to look like on the pitch. And I know I've kind of lent Villa here on the plus 1.5 line, but plus 1.25 is a completely different ball game. And I'm starting to think about the technical difference between guys like João Neves and Vitinha in that PSV midfield. Tielemans is a technically gifted player, but Tielemans, McGinn, Kamara kind of midfield. No disrespect to Villa, but I think it's almost certain that PSG are going to completely dominate this game. It's about whether Villa can contain, and then the guys like Rashford, Rodgers in transition can make them pay for being a bit overly committed. But yeah, I wouldn't be backing Villa plus 1.25. I just want to make that clear. Plus 1.5,
Yeah.
I would, but plus 1.25, no. And the market's moved so far in Villa's favour that, the value might be with PSG now.
What about bookings or corners, says Beef Bully? And I did do research into the referee. Again, just like yesterday, I don't see any edge with referees here. They've appointed a Norwegian ref for the Barca game, Espan Eskas, generally 3.17 yellow cards per game. He did issue 11 cards Rangers against Fenerbahce, but that's completely different when a Turkish team's involved. So it didn't make any sense to me to get involved in the cards for Barca Dortmund. This game, I think, does have more card potential just because of the players on the field. And we mentioned Martinez there. If Villa are in a decent position, he could be a lock-in for a yellow just for time wasting or some sort of skullduggery sort of player he is, isn't it? Maurizio Mariani's in the middle here, Italian referee, does have a higher card count, 4.6 cards per game in 6 Champions League appearances he's done this season. So he's been well used. The card line, though, I think is about fair. And generally, it's the second legs where you can get a lot more cards. I noticed yesterday there was quite a few second half cards, though, Will. So that could be an angle worth looking at. Maybe in play, players and teams getting a little bit more desperate. But before the game, don't think I could get involved in the cards line. And the corners line for these Champions League games looks about fair as well to me personally. Any final thoughts before we move on, Will, from this game?
Final thoughts are I think that somebody mentioned Barcelona PSG moneyline parlay. Not sure exactly what price you can get on that, but it might be creeping up towards even money now. Is it more likely than not than both of these win tonight? Both of these strong moneyline favourites win tonight? I think it's probably slightly more likely than not. So, even money and above might be interesting on that. I'm actually just going to click through that and see what it comes out at. Yes, it's minus 120 because Barca have just shortened a bit more. If that gets up towards even money, maybe we'll see more of a drift on PSG. I think it's more likely than not that both win, right? Would you agree with that, Steve?
Yeah, I think so. I would agree with that overall. Just looking at Messi's goalkeeping coach, PSG clear minus 1.5 all night. The more it goes up, the more he's going to put it on. Who's the best keeper out of these two then? Messi's goalkeeping coach. You going Martinez or are you going Donnarumma? Who's everyone taking here out of these two keepers? Donnarumma in a penalty shootout. They're both very good in shootouts, aren't they? These keepers, I must say. Donnarumma's a little bit harshly treated sometimes, in my opinion. I think he's come up with some big moments in his career, taking Robert Sanchez all day, says Joe Bamba. Oh, right, yes, okay. We'll move on to some more games today. I've not got any picks in this in the Championship games. I do have a play in the Norwegian match, and not too much else going on apart from Champions League really in the soccer world. Swansea against Plymouth, Oxford against QPR, Coventry, Portsmouth. Put down if you got any bets here. You can watch these on the Bet Rivers live streams, or the 3 Championship games. I don't think the Norwegian game is available. It might be. But there is a split here. There was a stat that I wanted to mention. Coventry City have been very well backed. 97% of the money and 96% of the tickets. And there's been a significant wager placed on Coventry, minus 3/4 of a goal Asian handicap. Had a bad run of it recently. Lost to Burnley and Sheffield United. Frank Lampard, I think, was sent off. Looks an obvious rebound spot against a Portsmouth team who might get sucked into some trouble and not generally very good away from home. So I would probably agree with the money moves there. The Norwegian game is very interesting. I was initially liking the under goals here, but actually it's not often I go into this market, but I like the corners. Over 10.5 corners based on the start of play. Both sides stretch the game with wingers and wing backs who often, as I say, try and get crosses in and get them blocked. Fredrikstad, we talk about goalkeepers, actually have, in my opinion, the best goalkeeper in the Norwegian League, Jonathan Fischer. He will be a Premier League keeper, I do believe, in time. You heard it here first. I think he's exceptional. They faced a lot of shots this season, Fredrikstad, so far, and he's saved most of them. Another reason I like the corners. You know, if they're facing a lot of shots on target, they're probably going to concede a lot of corners almost by accident. So I would go over 10.5 corners there in the Norwegian game. Fredrikstad against Valerenga. Coventry City, would they have your money tonight, Will, do you think, or not? Do you agree with the money moves there?
Honestly, to be honest, I find it very hard to commit to looking at a championship card when you've got Champions League quarterfinals going on. I just saw a comment. Who was the comment from? Yeah, from Charlie there, the one that's on screen, that Portsmouth typically rotate midweek before a home game at the weekend. If that's true here, then that price on Coventry is probably going to look quite big. But yeah, I can't really give out an official pick here. I think no probably looks at the card.
Yeah, Pompey manager typically rotates in a way. I mean, that's the problem with the Championship. There's so many goddamn games. That league needs to come down to 20 teams. I really think that the quality of football will be a lot better. These midweek rounds are just awful at times. Borussia going Oxford QPR draw for Pete's money. QPR, I think, are one of the teams that are they on the beach? Are they pretty much mid-table? It's such a congested table right now, isn't it? Interesting one. He's saying both have got flaws, Donnarumma and Martinez, Meslier's goalkeeping coach. Anything else before we go? Yes. Must mention, Betting Weekly Tennis Live follows this show at 6 p.m. UK time. That's 1 p.m. Eastern. And we've got Rory Girani on there today with Tim Dennis. So do check that out. It's a brand new show. It's running Mondays to Wednesdays. It is Masters Week. The US Masters golf starts on Thursday. I'm going to have Simon Holden on the show on Friday, actually. We're going to be looking at some in-play bets for the Masters, probably some 3-ball bets as well. Actually, check out the Instagram feed. And Simon has put up some thoughts ahead of the Masters already. I think he had a newsletter pick in addition to that. And, I was looking today. I think there's an interesting offer on Bet Rivers if you stake a certain amount. And there's a hole-in-one on hole 16. You would be eligible for some sort of bonus betting fund on free bets. You have to check out the terms and conditions there. But I thought that was an interesting carrot that Bet Rivers have sort of dangled there. A hole-in-one on hole number 16 at the Masters in August. That must happen quite a lot, Will. Especially the final day with the pin position. I'd be tempted in there. Are you into golf at all?
Feel like you're goading me. You're trying to goad me in because I've got something to say about basically everything. I like the sound of free. So, yeah, I would, anyone watching that can get their hands on anything free from Bet Rivers or certainly get involved. But in regards, I do actually have a view on the Masters hole-in-one yes or no market, Steve. I'm absolutely all over no at plus 140. I know it's an uncomfortable sweat. Oh, there we go. Dan Roebuck.
Hold on, are you on the no now?
Dan Roebuck's. Hang on, I might have to withdraw these comments, but let's just imagine that Dan hadn't boxed this. But no at plus 140. No hole-in-one at the Masters on any hole is plus 140. Just mathematically, if you do the proper statistical analysis, going back over the relevant sample size, it's a lot of like deep maths stuff. But statistically, plus 140 should be more like plus 110. So it's quite a lot of value, right? Looking at 15% or so. It's just an uncomfortable sweat. And if you can imagine the dynamic of the market, almost everybody's going to be backing yes, because it's a more fun sweat, right? To be hoping for something positive, something fun to happen. But that means the value invariably is on the uncomfortable sweat, which is no here. So yeah, anybody that's got the fortitude to get involved and enjoys a comfortable sweat, let's go at plus 140, no hole-in-one at the Masters.
Yeah, if you do bet no hole-in-one and you hear that massive roar go down on Sunday, you're just praying that it's on a different hole where someone's done something big. Because then if the camera goes to 16, you've got your heart in your mouth. You've certainly done your research there. I tell you, everyone seems to in the betting world gets involved with the Masters. It's such a massive betting event, isn't it? Just across the board. I mean, I was watching the dojo this week with Nigel and Neil. Yeah, Neil's saying it's one of his biggest betting heats of the year as well. It gets everyone going, doesn't it? A bit of the US Masters. Even if you're not really into golf, everyone will watch a bit of Sunday evening to win the green jacket. You know, I'd rather have the yellow jacket, but the green jacket is a fine prize. Well, good luck whatever anyone is taking with the in the golf this week. Best bet before we go for Wednesday's Champions League. Well, what are you going to give out as your best bet?
It's FC Barcelona to win and both teams to score at +132. But yeah, just another plug for the tennis show that'll be coming up shortly after this. Djokovic has just gone out in straight sets to Alejandro Tobillo, which is quite the upset. Tobillo is a very talented player, and I'm sure the guys will have a lot to say about that on the show. But that's a bit of a shock coming out of Monte Carlo. So yeah, everybody
looking forward to that. Breaking news with Rory Giovanni later. I'm looking forward to seeing how the boys break that one down. Djokovic out of the tournament. That's always pretty sensational news whenever it happens. Kiton Yal's back. Welcome in again. I'm not writing off Real Madrid until I see it. The Bernabeu Champions League night is full of ghosts. That is an uncomfortable way to sign out, Will, a man who definitely doesn't want Real Madrid to progress any further beyond the quarterfinals of the Champions League. But we shall see what next week brings. In fact, I think you're on Tuesday next week on the live show, Will, I do believe, not Wednesday. But we will be looking forward to you more on Betting Weekly Live. Tomorrow, James Eastham joins me. Full breakdown, Europa League, Conference League. And they say Simon Holden is going to be with me on Friday as well. But good luck, whatever you are taking. I think my best bet of the day is Rashford shot on target, +115. I certainly think it's probably the best player prop of the day. There's quite a few decent player props that we mentioned there across the board. I'm going to say predicted scores. I'm going to go Barcelona 3, Borussia Dortmund 1. And I'm going to say PSG also win by the same scoreline. So I'm expecting quite a few goals this evening. Best of luck, whatever you're taking. Remember to gamble responsibly. Hit the like button already. If you're brand new to the channel, would really appreciate any subscription as well. And I say look forward to seeing you tomorrow on Betting Weekly Live. Take care, and thanks very much, Will.